3 months after my husband's funeral, I discovered a locked room hidden behind our cabin in the Colorado mountains. What I found inside made me question everything I thought I knew about our marriage. The room wasn't filled with old tools or fishing equipment. It was filled with medical machines. There were oxygen tanks, shelves of medication, treatment records, and equipment I didn't recognize. And then I learned something even more shocking. My husband had been fighting advanced cancer for 3 years. He never told me. He never told our daughter. He faced it completely alone. At that moment, standing in that hidden room, I realized the man I had spent more than 3 decades with had been carrying a secret so enormous that it changed the meaning of our entire life together. But the medical room wasn't the biggest surprise waiting for me. That came later, hidden inside a journal that David never intended me to find. My name is Eleanor, and this is the story of how I discovered the truth about my husband after he was gone. David and I lived what most people would call a simple life. We owned a modest house in the suburbs of Chicago. He worked as an accountant. I was a schoolteacher. Our daughter, Lily, had moved to New York to pursue her career, and like many parents, we gradually adjusted to seeing her less often. Our life wasn't exciting. It was ordinary. And that's exactly why I loved it. We shared dinners together. We watched television in the evenings. We argued occasionally about small things and laughed about them later. For years, I believed I knew David completely. I was wrong. After his death, reality arrived quickly. Medical bills piled up on the kitchen table. Savings disappeared faster than I expected. Every month became a struggle. There was only one significant asset left: a small cabin in Colorado. David had always refused to sell it. For years, he traveled there almost every weekend. Whenever I asked why, he gave the same answer: the mountains help me think. I never questioned him, at least not seriously. But after his death, I had no choice. The cabin had to go. Or so I thought. I contacted a real estate agent and arranged a visit. The decision felt practical, necessary, yet something about it bothered me. A feeling I couldn't explain. As the day approached, memories of David began resurfacing. Especially memories from the last few years of his life. Looking back, the signs were everywhere. At the time, however, I missed every one of them. He developed a persistent cough. Dry, constant, impossible to ignore. He claimed it was allergies. Later, he blamed a lingering cold. I accepted those explanations. Then he started losing energy. Tasks that once seemed effortless became difficult. He sat down more often. Moved more slowly. Again, I assumed it was age. Work stress. Nothing more. One morning I walked into the bathroom and found him shaving his head. The sight surprised me. When I asked why, he laughed and said he wanted a simpler hairstyle. I believed him. Today, that memory breaks my heart. But there was something else. Something I didn't understand until much later. David became distant. Not cold, not cruel, just distracted, as though part of him was somewhere else. I interpreted that distance as emotional withdrawal. There were evenings when I became irritated. I accused him of caring more about that cabin than his family. He never argued, never defended himself. He simply listened. At the time, his silence frustrated me. Now I know why he remained silent. He was protecting a secret that was slowly killing him. The day I arrived at the cabin with the realtor, I immediately noticed something strange. The property looked better than ever. The lawn was perfectly maintained. The porch was spotless. The windows gleamed. It looked as though someone had been caring for it constantly. The realtor noticed it too. Neither of us understood why. Then someone appeared. An elderly man stepped out from a neighboring property. His name was Henry. I recognized the name instantly. David had mentioned him occasionally over the years. When Henry learned we were planning to sell the cabin, his expression changed. He looked worried, almost alarmed. Then he said words I will never forget. "Before you sell this place, there's something you need to see." A chill ran through me. I followed him behind the cabin and deeper into the woods. Eventually we reached a small structure hidden among the trees. It looked like an ordinary storage shed. But there was one unusual detail. Several heavy-duty locks secured the door. My stomach tightened. Why would a storage shed need that much security? When Henry unlocked the final lock and opened the door, I got my answer. And it wasn't anything I expected. Inside was a fully equipped treatment room. I froze. Machines filled the space. Medical supplies lined the shelves. There were oxygen concentrators, medications, and equipment designed for long-term care. For several seconds I couldn't speak. Then Henry revealed the truth. 3 years earlier, David had collapsed near the lake. After medical testing, doctors delivered devastating news. Advanced cancer. The diagnosis was serious, potentially terminal. But David made a decision immediately. He wasn't going to tell his family. Not me. Not Lily. No one. Instead, he transformed this hidden room into a place where he could receive treatment while keeping his illness secret. Every weekend, while I believed he was escaping to the mountains, he was actually fighting for his life. The realization hit me like a wave. Suddenly every strange behavior made sense. The cough, the fatigue, the shaved head, the emotional distance, the frequent trips, everything. But what happened next shattered me even more. While sitting inside the room, I discovered a journal hidden inside a drawer. At first glance it appeared ordinary. Then I opened it. The first entries focused on symptoms, medications, and treatments. But as I continued reading, the journal became deeply personal. And that's when I learned the reason behind his silence. David wasn't afraid of dying. He was afraid of becoming a burden. Page after page described his fears. He worried about watching me become his caretaker. He worried about disrupting Lily's future. He worried about replacing happy memories with painful ones. One entry stopped me cold. It read, "If Eleanor finds this one day, I hope she understands that every decision I made was because I loved her." I broke down crying. For years, I had mistaken his sacrifice for indifference. I thought he was choosing the cabin over us. In reality, he was choosing us over himself. But I still hadn't reached the final surprise. That came later. And it changed everything. That evening, Lily arrived. When she learned I had canceled the sale, she was furious. She thought grief had clouded my judgment. So I brought her to the hidden room. I handed her the journal. At first she refused to believe any of it. Her father would never hide something this important. Or so she thought. Then she started reading. Minutes passed. The anger disappeared from her face. Then came tears. The journal revealed a side of David neither of us had ever seen. A man carrying unbearable pain while pretending everything was normal. A father who quietly watched his daughter build a future he might never see. A husband determined to shield his family from suffering. As we sat together reading his words, years of misunderstanding began to fade. For the first time, we truly understood him. Then Lily found something tucked between the journal pages. A legal document, and what it contained left us speechless. David had one final request. He wanted the cabin transformed into a retreat for cancer patients. Not a business, not an investment, a sanctuary. A peaceful place where people facing serious illness could find rest, support, and dignity. Suddenly everything made sense. The hidden room, the maintenance of the property, the improvements around the cabin. David hadn't been preparing a getaway. He had been building a legacy. Even while battling cancer, he was thinking about how to help people he would never meet. That night, Lily and I made a decision. The cabin would not be sold. We would finish what David started. The following months were difficult. But they were also meaningful. We contacted a local physician David had mentioned in his journal. He immediately offered support. A nurse joined the project. Then a social worker. Then volunteers. Little by little, the dream became reality. Soon patients began arriving. Some were exhausted from treatment. Others simply needed peace. We offered comfortable rooms, warm meals, and compassionate company. Nothing extravagant, just kindness. And sometimes kindness is exactly what people need most. The retreat slowly became a place of healing. Not only for the patients, for us as well. Lily's life changed dramatically. Inspired by her father's story, she decided to pursue a career in healthcare. She wanted to help others facing the same challenges he faced alone. As for me, grief never disappeared. I don't think it ever truly does. But it transformed. The sadness remained, yet alongside it grew purpose and gratitude. Now, whenever I sit beside the lake, I think about the day I discovered that hidden room. I think about the secrets, the sacrifices, the journal, and the man I thought I knew. The silence that once felt painful now carries a different meaning. It reminds me of courage. It reminds me of love. And it reminds me that sometimes the deepest acts of devotion are the ones we never see. The retreat behind me is filled with people whose lives have been touched by David's vision. Many of them never knew him. Yet they benefit from his compassion every day. And whenever I watch someone find comfort here, I realize something extraordinary. My husband's story didn't end with his death. In many ways, that's where its greatest chapter began.